All right. Hello, Opus family. Happy Wednesday. It's Kayla again. I'm coming to you live from my little corner here down in Texas. And you know what? Looking forward to today's topic, just because it's something that we've really seen a change in, and I know we've talked about it a handful of times. And just want to dig a little bit more into it and give you some of the tips and things that we're seeing that are working, and some of the stuff we're hearing from our clients. So my name's Kayla. I am the client account consultant here at Opus Management. We are a Tifton, Ohio-based company. I'm in our Texas branch, and we come to you live every Wednesday, approximately 11:30 Central, on not only YouTube, but Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those wonderful places. We do have some great new IT tech tips and just some basic user tips coming to you on our social media platforms. So we would love if you guys would follow us there. I've been working on quite a bit of stuff as far as leadership and management goes, and some of the opportunities on how to help you guys with your customer base, how to really some of the things that we look at as a consulting firm to help you guys out with. Today specifically on our talk, we're going to look at we're going to talk a little bit more about navigating the change in the landscape. So we all know the last 3 years now, it's been a little bit crazy. A lot of companies have had to pivot and change. A lot of companies haven't been able to change to that remote work and be flexible to be able to accommodate what's going on. So the pandemic that we went through in 2020 really made a lot of companies have to adopt some new policies and some new ways of working. So you had a lot of we didn't want to have the layoffs. We started implementing a lot more with remote work. Remote work brings a huge challenge, right? This is something that wasn't the norm for a lot of companies. It wasn't, their go-to. They really hadn't built out a leadership team that was that was accustomed to managing remotely. So if you hadn't been in a multi-unit or you didn't cover a large geographic area, being able to manage your team and your direct employees from a distance is something that's really hard. It's not cut out for everybody. It's not something that a lot of people have been privy to, have been shown how to do. Haven't had a great example. I know that when I stepped into my first multi-unit role, I was really fortunate in having a great example of a leader that understood that how do you set the expectations, how do you leverage things, what to focus on. I think a lot of times we can get focused on the wrong thing, whether that is as an employer or an employee, a manager, or someone that is being managed remotely. And so it's definitely something that being able to dig into and have some awareness around can really help you change what that looks like for your future, especially now with social media. And with all the options that we have around SharePoint and being able to share data and tools and pull reports, it really has changed the landscape itself. So keeping those things in mind, being able to stay connected while you're managing with your employees, being able to look at reports and read that data and have a conversation that is open and is eliciting feedback is really big. So we talked last week about feedback and really driving that changing your culture in your company to recognize and encourage that communication piece. Now, making a shift and ensuring that we're still fostering that same open door, and then fostering that open communication, that feedback cycle. It gets a little tougher when you're on remote. One of the things we do here at Opus is anytime that we get on with a client, because we have clients all over not only the United States, but we have companies that we work with, in other countries as well. We ensure that we keep our video chats on, right? Like turning the video on, being able to see somebody face to face, being able to recognize their body cues, and have some of that nonverbal communication come across can help you read the situation. I was laughing. I presented a proposal the other day, and my boss was on, our COO. So he was on it with me, and he and I were both on video. There were 3 other ladies that were on the call. Thankfully, one of them was on video. But when I went to share my screen and share the proposal and show the work that we had done for their company, showing them basically what we could do for them, it was funny because I couldn't see the people on the screen. And changing over to this remote and virtual meetings was something I struggled with 3 years ago. Even 10 years ago when I got into managing territories. But it was something I struggled with. Well, when I shared my screen and everybody's face went away, it kind of stopped me for a second. I was like, oh crap, I can't see anybody. I can't necessarily read the room. I can't determine if they like what I'm saying. Do I need to pivot? Am I getting that look from my boss that I know so well of, hey, wrap it up, or when he's got something to say? And, that's what those phone calls are. So being able to really get that connection in the remote world right now, in the workforce that we're doing, is, it's something that'll set you apart. So many people are worried about that. Think about all your friends, right? Like, how many people like to be in front of, and there are, but how many people really like to be in front of a bunch of people? I do these talks every Wednesday, and it's made things easier for me, but it's funny because I don't see the feedback. I don't see anybody's face, and I don't see, the responses unless they're putting them on the screen, like on my TikTok feed. My friend Roxy just popped on, unless I'm seeing that, it doesn't come across. I can't read what's going on. So being able to have that view, I think, will set you apart too in all the things that you do. People want to connect genuinely, and so being able to connect with you and your business, is just like connecting with the why and why we do anything. But as a manager, and also as an employee, making sure that the expectations that get set with remote work are very clear. So establish, what it is that you expect to be done, what you expect the availability to be, right? Like, we all have the option. You have your phone in your pocket, and everything that I use for the most part for work, I can access through my phone. And if it's not through my phone, obviously the laptop or an iPad, but have that conversation around, what that looks like. What is the availability of your partners look like? Do you expect them to be available 24/7? Are you compensating them if you're available 24/7? Or is it just during business hours? What does it look like when you start looking at their productivity and really defining what your policies are around that? Also procedures, do you expect, like for us, the expectation is that my laptop is online during the work week, because if something needs to happen, there needs to be updates. We need to reconfigure one of the programs we use, like Acumatica. They need to be able to download, if IT needs to be able to download new software or reconfigure it, then they have to have access to that. My computer has to be online. Barring a natural disaster, right? Like barring there's a hurricane, which can happen I'm in Texas on the coast, barring a hurricane, like that's the expectation. They just keep it online. And, that's been set out really clearly. And I can go into our SharePoint site and see where I have signed off on my policies. Everything's managed there, tells me what date I read it, what date that I signed it, and I agreed to these things. So set those expectations, set those guidelines, and then what the procedures are for your remote workers, for your hybrid workers. What does that look like? When do you expect them in? Ensure that you're using technology to your benefit, right? So there's some great pieces out there, and it's ever evolving. And if you get with the right group, being able to utilize things like SharePoint and your document storage really can keep everybody on the same page. So we can go into currently, when I start working on a proposal and I ask for feedback from my manager, I log into our SharePoint site, I upload, whether it's on a Word document, if I've got it, if I've turned it into typically I don't turn it into a PDF till I'm ready to send it, but I get it in that Word document, I upload it into our proposal folder on SharePoint, and then not only can I continue to work on it, and it's saved, but now when I ask for input or feedback from somebody else on my team, they can get in and work on it live as well. And it saves itself. Now, mind you, got to be careful and not save over it, because I've done that a time or two. Save the wrong thing. Not realize that I didn't download it and change where I was working on it at. I just left it on SharePoint and might have put in the wrong numbers. But use that piece of technology. Use the tools that are available. Ensure that you're giving your team those tools, right? Like, make sure that, when you've onboarded somebody new and they go in to write their first proposal, that you come to them and you say, hey, Kayla, like, you realize where you're going to save this proposal. You'll be able to go in and save it here, work in it in SharePoint, and then you can see when somebody else is working in it. So my screen will tell me, hey, TJ's in this, Owen's in this, Tim's in this, Kayla's in this, Angela's in this, Ashley's in it, whoever's in it and helping me at the time, or looking at it, giving me their feedback, they can leave the notes. That having that option is definitely something that will help the team collaborate. And having the collaboration piece can be tough. Having a team building time when everybody's spread out. If you've got people in Texas and Ohio and California and Nevada, that can make things a little bit of a struggle. So ensuring that you're building in that time also for team building, because having a personal relationship with someone, or the start of knowing them personally, and can help a professional relationship. That piece can be really important. It helps to build the engagement. A lot of people in my line, in my lifetime, I've taken several Gallup surveys. For those of you that don't know, it measures certain employee satisfaction, right? So when you take it, and one of the questions, which always cracks me up, because the way that people take it, one of the questions that's always the most debated by the teams, or at least by my teams, was, I have a best friend at work. Because literally the first thought on everybody's mind was, my best friend doesn't work with me. I mean, like, sometimes we get lucky and I get on live feeds and, one of my best friends hops on, like she is now, on my TikTok and listens to me. But that's not always the case. But the Gallup survey didn't really mean best friend, like in the term that we mean it. It means that you have someone you're confident in, you come to work, you guys work well together, you can rely on them at work. I can, call one of my peers, or I can call my boss, and I know that that they're engaged, that they're very results driven, which is something that I am. The way that we get along on a professional level is something also that I personally, like, I take it personally. They are invested in my work at the company as much as I'm invested in theirs, right? If they're doing well, I'm happy for them. If they are struggling with something, I want to step over and help without being asked or without being prompt. Somebody that I enjoy coming to work with, not the little group of girls that you want to sit in the corner and bitch with. That's not what we mean by a best friend, right? Like, I've got other friends that I can call after the workday is done. Used to call after the workday is done because I love my job now. But have that group at work that you can go to, that you can rely on, and that really drives. So that piece is hard to find. It's hard to help your coworkers navigate finding that best friend at work. But it's not hard to be that best friend, right? You can be that for somebody and work with them. But that's another, that's a tough thing, and especially in the different fields. So we have a ton of different fields that are different companies in the different industries that we work with. And finding the way that, the remote work handles things and the team building goes through can be a little bit difficult. So Opus Family, we're going to see if it happens this week, but my live stream platform loves to kick me off at 20 minutes. So just know it is 11:48, so that's about 2 minutes it's going to just cut out. It has been doing it to me for like 3 months, and I haven't figured out why it kills me at 20 minutes. But that's just heads up as we talk about this remote work. If it does that, I'll come back. Because I want to get through, there's 2 more points that I'd really like to get through on this remote work piece. But I'll come back and give you a part 2 as we get through that. But so outside of clear expectations from both parties, leveraging the actual technology, which if you've got questions around the technology or hadn't heard of SharePoint until today, give us a shout. We can definitely set some time up with you to help you with that. Team building, help, ensuring that your team is working well together, that they're engaged with having someone to rely on when they come to work, even if that's virtually. Those are the first 3 pieces, around this landscape and navigating it with remote workers. So my last 2 pieces are going to be a little bit different, right? So I think a lot of times the way that work has kind of been defined socially and socially acceptable, it was very much you came in at 9, you left at 5, right? Like there was a time clock that you punched. With the remote work, things happen, and you have to have some flexibility around how people get their work done, because lives get in the way. Prime example, I know that at 4 o'clock I have to get things wrapped up to a point where I can go and get my daughter off the bus. While I do have a support system at home, I can't rely on them to pick her up every day. So people have different things going on in their life, and being able to be flexible around the actual work that's getting done is crucial in this new climate. So you have to be able, as a manager or as a business owner, is focus on the results that you get, right? If you have set the expectations and this is what you're expecting from your employees, right? Like, I want X, Y, and Z from Aunt Bootsy. Make sure that you're focused on those results. Did Aunt Bootsy get you X, Y, Z? Or did she bring you A, B, Z? If she brought you A, B, Z, that's a different conversation. You've got to have that conversation around, hey, this is what is expected. These are the results we want. And you would be surprised at the increase in productivity with this. So here are my expectations. I